What if I told you that this is the off-season that actually changes everything? Not next year. Not in 3 years. Right now. This window, these next few months, could define the Cleveland Browns for the better part of a decade, and the people running this organization know it. That's not fan optimism talking. That's the front office telling you directly. So if you've been waiting for a reason to pay close attention, here it is. Buckle in, because we're about to break down exactly what's coming and why it matters more than anything this franchise has done in years. Andrew Berry didn't stand in front of a microphone and give you the usual corporate non-answers. He told you something real. He said this team plans to be more aggressive in free agency than they were last year. And then he said something that should have sent a shiver through every single Browns fan, that Cleveland could be one off-season away from being hyper-aggressive. Think about what that actually means. That's a general manager telling you he sees a competitive window forming. He's not managing expectations downward. He's not throwing out rebuild language. He's telling you the foundation is there, the coaching direction is trusted, and now it's time to add the pieces that push this thing over the edge. The blueprint is drawn. The question is whether they have the nerve to execute it. And if you're going to talk about execution, you have to start where football games are actually won and lost, in the trenches. Because if there was one thing last season exposed about this offense, it was the left tackle situation. Cam Robinson was supposed to be the answer, and instead he became the problem. A 9.1% pressure rate, a PFF grade that had no business being on a starting left tackle in the NFL. Quarterbacks don't have time to go through progressions, receivers can't get open, and play callers can't scheme creatively when the blind side is a revolving door of anxiety. It crippled this offense in ways that the box score doesn't fully capture, and everyone in Berea knows it. So when Adam Schefter drops a report saying that Trent Williams, 5-time All-Pro, one of the most dominant left tackles of this entire era, could potentially hit free agency because of a contract standoff with San Francisco, you stop everything you're doing and you pay attention. Trent Williams possibly available on the open market is not a normal storyline. This is a player who at 37 years old is still playing at an elite level. His PFF grades are still strong. He logged nearly 1,000 snaps last season and only allowed 4 sacks. 4. That's not a guy hanging on for a paycheck. That's a difference maker who just happens to have a birthday that makes some teams nervous. But here's the thing, for a team that needs an answer right now, not in 3 years, a short-term investment in Trent Williams doesn't just fix a weakness. It flips it into a strength overnight. You go from one of the worst-graded left tackles in the league to potentially the best veteran presence in football protecting your quarterback's blind side. Andrew Berry already hinted that revamping the offensive line with veteran presence is a priority. There may not be a more qualified veteran on the planet than Trent Williams. The money, likely north of $20 million on a 1-year deal, is significant. But if you're serious about this window, that's not reckless spending. That's exactly the kind of targeted, opportunistic move Berry said he was looking to make. Now, the offensive line can't be the only conversation because this offense also desperately needs weapons. And the wide receiver market is about to get chaotic in the most interesting way possible. Kimberly Martin reported that Mike Evans is set to return for another season and hit free agency. Mike Evans, 11 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. A 6 feet 5 inches red zone nightmare who has made quarterbacks look good his entire career. If you're a signal caller dropping back in a big game and you need a reliable target who can go up and get a contested ball, Evans has spent his entire career being exactly that guy. But there's nuance here, and you have to be honest about it. Evans is 32 years old. He's dealt with a concussion, a broken collarbone, and recurring hamstring problems in recent seasons. His projected market value sits around $13 million annually, but his camp could push for considerably more. So the Browns would be paying top dollar for a receiver whose injury history raises real questions about availability. That's the gamble. You're not buying the Mike Evans of 2019. You're buying what he has left, and betting that what's left is still worth a premium contract. For some teams, that math works. For Cleveland, it depends entirely on how aggressive they're willing to be, and whether they believe a veteran presence in the receiver room changes what this offense can do right now. But here's where it gets genuinely fascinating. Evans isn't the only path. Not even close. Romeo Doubs reportedly may not be returning to Green Bay, and at just 25 years old, he represents something different. He's not a superstar receiver, but he's physical, reliable, and exactly the kind of complementary weapon that helps a balanced offense function at a high level. You're not committing to a monster contract. You're adding a young, ascending piece without breaking the bank. That kind of move, smart, calculated, younger, is exactly the type of mid-tier strike that could allow the Browns to invest elsewhere. Then there's Alec Pierce, who quietly put together a legitimate breakout season, surpassing 1,000 yards and flashing big play ability that genuinely turned heads. The problem? His performance means his price tag could climb past $20 million per year. That's a massive investment for a player whose one strong season is also his first strong season. You're paying projection money for projection production, and that's always a risky proposition. Christian Kirk is another name worth keeping on the radar. His numbers have faded, but he had a legitimate 1,000-yard season in 2022, and at 29 years old, he could fill a complementary role without demanding the kind of contract that handcuffs you going forward. And then there's DeAndre Hopkins, whose connection to offensive coordinator Todd Monken makes this one of the more intriguing under-the-radar possibilities. At his peak, Hopkins was a legitimate argument for the best receiver in football. If he's willing to sign for a reasonable number to chase a ring, or at minimum, a real chance to compete, the experience and talent he brings to a locker room is the kind of thing you simply cannot manufacture through the draft. Sometimes you need a veteran who's been through it, who demands respect the moment he walks into a building. Speaking of the draft, and this is important, the Browns are not backed into a corner in free agency because this receiver class is legitimately loaded with early contributors. McKay Lemon, Cardinal Tate, Jordan Tyson, Denzel Boston, Omar Cooper Jr. League circles believe multiple players from this group can make an immediate impact. Rookie contracts are cheaper. They're younger. They give you flexibility for years, not months. Jordan Tyson's injury history might cause him to slip in the draft, and if he does, Cleveland has a chance to capitalize. Denzel Boston brings the kind of size and catch radius that you simply can't coach into smaller receivers. Omar Cooper Jr. reportedly generated serious buzz at the combine. The point is the Browns have real options, and they have the cap flexibility to pursue them. Restructures and calculated roster moves can create space. This front office isn't trapped. They have room to maneuver, and Barry has told you flat out that he intends to use it. So here's where everything lands. The Browns have a clear picture of what they need. They need the offensive line stabilized at left tackle, and Trent Williams is the single most explosive solution available on market. They need a legitimate receiving threat to take pressure off every other part of this offense, and whether that's Evans, Dew, Pierce, Hopkins, or a combination of free agency and the draft, there's no shortage of avenues. The philosophy question is what separates good front offices from great ones. Do you go all in on a win-now move and sign a proven star even if the price makes you uncomfortable? Do you split your resources, grab a mid-tier free agent, and let the draft build the depth? Or do you exercise patience, swing hard in the draft, and bet that the roster you have is already closer than anyone outside Cleveland wants to admit? Andrew Barry told you he's watching. He's preparing. He sees the window. And he told you in plain language that aggression is coming, maybe not recklessly, but surgically. 1 or 2 precise moves that change the calculus of what this team can do in 2025 and set the table for something bigger in 2026. That's not a front office that's rebuilding. That's a front office that's loading the chamber. This is the moment, Cleveland. Every signing, every restructure, every late-night rumor that drops at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday, it all matters this off-season in a way that it hasn't for a long time. The Browns are closer than people realize, and the people making the decisions know it. Now, let's see if they act like it. If this breakdown fired you up as much as it fired me up, do me a favor. Hit that like button, drop a comment below telling me whether you're riding with Trent Williams to fix the trenches or going all in on a veteran receiver to light up the scoreboard. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Browns Breakout so you don't miss a single move as free agency unfolds. We're just getting started. Go Browns!